What's going on, y'all? So, in this live, we're just going to talk about some things that I was reflecting on out of the Bhagavad Gita. So, I'm just going to read a quick description, formal description of what it is. So, the Bhagavad Gita, meaning Song of the Lord, is a revered 700 verse Hindu scripture within the epic Mahabharata, presenting a profound dialogue between the warrior Arjuna and his charioteer, Lord Krishna, who's an avatar of Vishnu on a battlefield. So it explores universal themes of duty or dharma, righteousness, selfless action or karma yoga, devotion or bhakti yoga, and knowledge or jnana yoga. And it offers a timeless spiritual guidance on fulfilling one's purpose and achieving self mastery amidst life challenges. So I was actually listening to it today, like an audio book version of it. So I don't have any notes or anything. I'm just showing, I was just reflecting on some of the things that were said, and I just wanted to share with y'all some of those reflections. Maybe it's something that can assist you on your journey, because I know it did for me. Like it was very eye opening. Let me check something real quick, y'all. I want to make sure, cause I never went live with this mic before. I'm getting a new mic soon, but this is what I have for now. So let me just make sure this is recording, cause I know some of y'all know what it's like to be talking and it not being recording. It not recording. So yeah, let me switch. Just wanna and then see if I can see myself see myself alive. Um, I apologize, y'all. Give me a second. Dang. All right, so I hope this is recording. I ain't gonna lie. I hope this is recording. Dang, is there any way I can check? All right, so let me just maybe if I speak louder, just in case it's not, y'all can still hear me. So some of the themes that were that stood out the most in the Bhagavad Gita were excuse me, was the theme of sacrifice. Like when it was talking about the different um levels of devotion, uh the different sacrifices that each, and the beautiful thing I love about this text is it shows all the different ways to return to the source. Like all of us are different. It's not going to be, you know, everybody not might not take necessarily the eightfold path, you know what I'm saying, to get to the source. You know what I'm saying? Like there are many paths, and even the wrong paths. You know what I'm saying? And I say that with quotations because wrong or right is in the eyes of who's determining what that is. Um, it's still you're still on the path as long as you're 100% authentic in that path. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's kind of like that scripture where it says you need to be either hot or cold. Yeah, I mean, like if you're hot, you're hot. You're on your path and you're hot. If you're cold, you're on your path and you're cold. You know what I'm saying? But either way, you're on your path. If you don't choose either, then you get nothing. So Sacrifice was one of the main things that the Bhagavad Gita was talking about, and depending on the level that you sacrifice would depend on how much you were able to, they kept referring to it as pleasing God. But what my interpretation of that is your connection to the source or yourself, your higher self. You know what I'm saying? Like that's who you're pleasing. And how much ever you could sacrifice was how man, this is really dark. I didn't realize how dark this is. How much you could sacrifice would depend on um the level of gifts you will receive from whichever path you was taking. So, you had some people that mastered, you know, they mastered it was your level of connection to the source depending on your mastery of your senses. So whichever sense you mastered the most would depend on how much you could get from that mastery. But all the mastery that's mentioned in this has to do with your mastery of your senses and realizing that you're not the senses. You know what I'm saying? You control them though, or they control you. Um, and you had different sacrifices of the taste. You know what I mean? The taste buds, the diet, the hunger. You know what I mean? How much ever you could master that would depend on how much you could receive in spiritual gifts from that. You know, lust was a main one in there, and it was talking about how the non-mastery of that one was pretty much the worst kind of not worse, but the most attachment that you had to this dimension. I mean, it was through that one. Um it also talked about transcendence. And transcendence really stood out for me because it was basically being able to transcend the 3D, the emotions, the senses. And to your ability to transcend would depend on how much of a master you truly were. Basically, a true master is one that's in complete control over his senses and over his emotions and his thoughts. 'Cause even the thoughts. You know what I mean? Um, so like when I was reflecting on transcendence, I thought about how much, reading this reveal how much out of control I actually am, or how like where I am and what I need to work on. And you'll be aware of this daily. Like situations will happen, and when you find yourself being pulled along by either emotion or a sense, it will let you know what you need to work on. You know what I'm saying? And the whole purpose is to the whole purpose of liberation is to be able to basically be in the world but not of it. Be in the world of senses and emotions and all of that, but don't let them control you. Um so transcendence even was with all right, no, so like let's go into detachment. So detachment was an interesting one too because it made me realize how attached I was to the end goal. And when you're attached to the end goal, you'll lack patience because you want it to happen. And so what you want to do is you make your goals, you know what I'm saying, but you detach from them. And you don't focus on the goal. You know what I mean? You focus on just doing what's right for because that's your duty. Your duty is to do what's right for your path. You know what I mean? It's not a you're not in it for a prize per se, or you're not attached to it. Like this whole thing was about detachment. It's not about, you know, not dealing with the things of life. You know what I'm saying? Not working. You know what I mean? Work was one. Everybody has to work. Like even to just support your physical body, you have to work. So it's not about not working. It's not about not having a family. It's not about not having friends, not dealing with people, not doing business. It's not about none of that. It's about not being attached to the outcomes that those that those things bring, because that's where you're not liberated. That's where you become a slave because you're attached to the things and you're attached to the outcomes. And if they go good, you're attached to the outcome of good. If they go bad, you're attached to the outcome of good. So the thing you want to be is basically neutral or detached from all outcomes. You know what I'm saying? At least detached enough to the point to where they don't control you. It's okay to feel feelings, but don't don't let them control you. You know what I mean? So and we'll come back and visit this later because one part I really gotta kind of go over. This my first time actually listening to the book. As long as I've known about the Bhagavad Gita, I just my first time listening to it. And it's crazy. It just in one time, I pulled so much information from it. You know what I mean? Just in one time. Now, it did have some stuff that made me hear the propaganda of it all. You know what I mean? To where you can hear the indoctrination of it. You know what I'm saying? Especially the parts where they tell you know what I mean, to be religious. Like it literally says in there to be religious. And like I said, I don't got a problem with it, but I can hear the control of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I can take what I need, and then some parts I'm just like, that sounds like somebody put that there to control people. You know what I mean? Like certain part. Um or maybe I misinterpreted. Maybe it could just mean, you know, because all these religions are supposed to be doing is bringing you back to the source. But, oh, it was another thing that I love that it mentioned. It mentioned how people worship these demigods. They worship the demigods. And from the demigods, you will get things, you know what I'm saying? But the demigod is not the God or the source. And it described the source. It describes the source as Vishnu. All of these things are energies. You know what I mean? Even when it talks about Krishna, Krishna talking about it don't even say and you know what, forgive me, because I kept I it didn't say Krishna. It kept referring to this being as the sup- the supreme personality of the Godhead or something like that. Like dude, Arjunan is talking to this being, and it didn't say the name. It kept saying personality of the Godhead, which I get that because what it's describing is the source. You know what I mean? And the source manifests itself through names and through beings, but it can't be named. You know what I'm saying? Because what's before it to name it? You know what I mean? It always existed. It talks about how it wasn't born because it just always is. You know what I'm saying? So what it's saying is that people worship these demigods and they think that the demigods are gods because some of these demigods put themselves off as God and they're not. You know what I mean? Or not even that they put themselves off. Sometimes people just worship demigods just for this, just cause. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the demigods never even said to worship them, and people do. They just do. You know what I mean? So it talked about that. How people worship demigods and mistake them for the source. So what was the other thing? So right, transcendence, detachment, sacrifice, Um, those was the main things that I pulled just from one listen of the text. And it made me realize like sometimes when it even talked about, being what you call that? Basically being able to see the all in everything and treating everything equally because everything is just the source manifested in different forms, but it's still the source. So by you seeing that source, you're not judging. You know what I'm saying? Because it's getting out of that mind of duality of this is good or this is bad. It's just like, let me just judge it or let me just deal with this thing as it is. You know what I mean? And that by that way, you're not going into duality. You know what I mean? It's still this and it's interesting because this whole thing runs on duality. You know what I mean? Like cold, hot, up, down, left, right, good, bad. But it's transcendence. That's where the transcendence comes in. You're transcending duality by seeing the connectedness in everything. And by you being able to see that connectedness, you stay free from attachment. It's almost like being in duality makes you attached. You know what I mean? And staying detached keeps you out of duality and basically being neutral. Um when that supreme, let me hold on real quick, y'all. Let me get this name. I think it's called the personality supreme personality of the divine or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, basically it was describing God. Um and I'm looking at Krishna like an energy. Like if you can step away from the being and just see Krishna as an energy, he talked about how he came back. When there's a time when I guess things are not as they should be. I forget exactly how it's described. Then he said, "I'll come back." You know what I mean? And when he says I'm taking that as an energy that will manifest itself in certain people. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like Krishna, this being, is actually manifesting through a person. It's just it's the energy of whatever what Krishna represents, the energy of what Vishnu represents. You know what I mean? These characters are energies and they describe them in certain ways and they manifest themselves in different ways. But it really was an eye opener because it let me know how much work I actually have to do. And the good thing is the way I'm starting to think about it now is I ain't gonna lie, it's a lot. Like as far as um work. But when you're in the mind of devotion, it's not a thing to where it's like you're glad to do this work because the work is freeing you, like freeing yourself from your senses. Like there are certain things that I've overcome that now are not things to me, and I'm glad that happened. And it's making me a better person. So by listening to this, now I know there's more things I need to work on, and I'm aware of it now. Now I'm more aware of it. So now when certain things happen, I can deal with them in a place to where it's like, all right, am I going to let anger control me? Am I going to let you know whatever feeling of insecurity control me in these situations, or am I going to rise above it? You know what I'm saying? And control my emotions and control my senses. I mean, and every day gives you an opportunity to do that. I mean, that choice between choosing that food that has no nutritional value or food that does. I mean, or choosing to be insecure about a situation or have courage. I mean, to choose like every day you get that choice to get better. And that's what it's about. It's about those everyday choices. Detach yourself from the thought of I want to be liberated. I want to, you know, get out the cycle of death and rebirth. Like that's great, but focus on those everyday little things that lead to that liberation. That everyday choice, those choices lead up to liberation. That is liberation. You're liberated now. Like that's how you got to think about it. Like I'm not trying to be liberated. I am, and I'm just going through the motions of being in this existence. But at the very same time, like you gotta do the work. Yeah, I mean, like that's one thing that it stressed on was doing that work. Like this wasn't a thing to where it was like, oh, just believe in this and you'll be saved. It wasn't that. It wasn't just believe in this and you'll be saved. No, it was like, yo, you gotta master your senses. You gotta master your emotion. Like these things you gotta do to be in this state of liberation. You know what I'm saying? And a good way I like to think about it is you should have a goal so big that you have to fit into it. Yeah, I mean? Like, turtles are a great example, right? So the turtle can only grow as big as the cage that you put it in. So if a turtle is in a small cage, if you notice as it grows, you have to keep buying a bigger cage. So as you're growing, give yourself a nice big container to grow into. You know what I mean? That's gonna require you to stretch yourself. That's gonna require you to go through um gosh, what is it?